The eyes of NFL scouts on Texas and Alabama Saturday. Top prospects in action. Bryce Young, Will Anderson. Hey, look over on that Texas side as well. They've got likely the top running back in the draft in Bijan Robinson. I was talking with Brady Quinn yesterday. He's worried about Alabama stopping Robinson in this game. But we're going to look at these guys as it pertains to next year's NFL draft, the 2023 draft. Ryan Wilson has his latest mock draft up on CBSSports.com. You see Robinson there on the bottom line going 18th to the Eagles. Will Anderson Jr. first to the Texans. Then it's C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. He right now is looked at as the top quarterback prospect, but Anthony Richardson skyrocketing up boards. He goes third to the Seahawks. Bryce Young down at number 9 to the Giants. Let's get the man himself in there. Ryan Wilson, mock draft season, breaking down some of the biggest prospects in the biggest games this weekend in college. And we start with Anderson, Ryan, who would have been the number 1 pick this year had he been eligible. At this point, can he only hurt his draft stock?
Yes, the correct answer is yes. A few years ago, I remember talking about Chase Young. Chase Young didn't really hurt his draft stock. Joe Burrow came out of nowhere, and Chase Young dropped, quote unquote, to number 2. But at this time in the process, Chase Young was the clear-cut number 1 guy. Will Anderson is a much better player than Chase Young at the college level, and we can all remember how much and how dominant Chase Young was. Will Anderson is the easy pick. I said this last year when we were talking about Aiden Hutchinson. It's a pick you can make at the top of the draft and feel good about your chances of keeping your job if you're a general manager. In the mock draft, I have him going to the Houston Texans. These are reverse Super Bowl odds, not where I think the Texans will finish. But Will Anderson is a layup of a player. He is so incredibly talented. He could end up being, Chris, the best player to come out of the Nick Saban Alabama program. And I look quickly, since 2012, they've had 31 first-round picks out of Alabama. He could end up being the best. We had the Julio Joneses and the Derrick Henrys, the Mac Joneses, if you're Ryan Wilson and love that guy. But that's how good he's been. Last year, he had 31 tackles for loss, 17.5 sacks. And he was just scratching the surface on what he's going to be able to do. They play Texas this weekend. That's going to be a fun football game for a lot of reasons. Christian Jones, the right tackle, played pretty well last week against Louisiana Monroe. He's going to have his hands full. There will be no ULM players out there when he goes up against Will Anderson in that matchup.
And it seems like the only way he might fall out of that top spot is if there's a team up there that wants a quarterback, right? If the quarterback is there, that's somebody that can supplant the quote-unquote best overall prospect. Now, Bryce Young is not looked at right now as a number 1 pick, a guy that you would take in the top 2. C.J. Stroud is looked at as a more a pro-ready quarterback because of Young's frame. What are scouts worried about with that frame and the height of Young?
That's it. That's exactly it. He is a pro-ready quarterback. Unfortunately, he's built like a kicker. And no disrespect to kickers or John Breach, but he's listed at 190-ish. I don't think he weighs that. I don't know unless he put in a lot of weight in the offseason. And he's going to have to prove a lot of people wrong throughout this pre-draft process.
Can I jump in, Ryan? I just want to ask you a follow-up real quick on that because, we've seen so many quarterbacks lately that have overcome that. The Kyler Murrays of the world that are small, whether it's a short guy, Russell Wilson, whether it's a guy with small hands, Kenny Pickett. Is that something that he can overcome, or is that something that's always going to be a hit against him until he proves it in the NFL?
No, he can overcome it, no doubt about it. The thing with Kyler Murray and even Russ Wilson is that they're thicker than Bryce is. Tua, too, by the way. Tua wasn't necessarily tall, but he was thick. You can still get hurt no matter your size. We've seen that, no doubt about it. But the thing about Bryce Young is he's incredibly tough. He will take a hit and bounce back up. We saw that last year in the Georgia football game, and both of them, as a matter of fact, was certainly the last one of the season there for Alabama. I love his game. He, to me, would be my number 1 quarterback as we sit here, but the concerns when you talk to people around the league are the size concerns. Now, he can pack on some weight, and we'll see what that looks like when his frame adds 10, 15 pounds or whatever may be the case, but he can absolutely make the case that he's the best quarterback in this class, and he can prove that before the draft. Like what we said all the time, Chris, it only takes one team to fall in love with a player, and I think that could happen with Bryce Young for the right reasons. It's not like he is not the complete player other than the fact that he's, quote-unquote, 6 feet, 190 pounds.
All right, slight frame. That's what's chalked up right now against Bryce Young, the defending Heisman winner going into this season. He's got the Texas Longhorns this week. They're going to be able to put up points. Texas might be able to put up points as well because they have likely the best running back in the country and the top pro prospect right now in Bijan Robinson. Is there a ceiling for him, though, no matter what he does this season, just because of that position? The last 4 drafts, Ryan, number 24 is the highest we've seen a running back taken.
I think there is, fair or unfair, only because we're at the point in the NFL evolution where running backs aren't valued as highly as they once were. Zeke Elliott went high, Leonard Fournette went high, and after that we've seen those players at that position drop, as you know, to the bottom half of the first round. I had Bijan going 18th to the Eagles. That feels about right. Is he a better player than number 18? Yeah, he is. But again, the running back position is fungible. Last week's game against Louisiana Monroe, we only had 10 carries, but he had 70 yards, made some plays receiving out of the backfield as well. But when I watch him play, I was trying to think who he reminds me of, and I actually go old school. We need Prisco to confirm this, but he has a little Sean Alexander in this game. He's a one-cut-and-go guy. At that size, he runs like he's so much smaller, and then in open field, he's just running through arm tackles and running over people, and then he gets around the corner, he turns on the afterburner. So he does everything well. He caught 26 passes last year, so he's improving that part of his game as well. He will block you into the dirt in pass pro situations. So again, checking every box when you're looking for a player that's a first-round talent. Bijan's certainly that. And I would imagine that Nick Saban is very concerned about how he's going to slow him up because he is, right now, as we say here, the best running back in this draft class.
And Alabama fans very familiar with Sean Alexander, played so many great years there in Tuscaloosa when Alabama was having a few down times before Nick Saban showed up. Hey, if you're looking at quarterbacks, you got to be watching Florida and Kentucky. And Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, they're both in the top 12 of your latest mock, and Richardson soaring up to number 3. What did he do for himself last week?
That Utah game was so incredibly fun to watch. I went back and watched it again yesterday. And the first few pass plays, they ran the ball a lot, Florida did early on. It looked like the quarterback situation there with Richardson was that he was eager to leave the pocket even though he didn't need to. He calmed down, and for the final 2/3 of that game, he was lights out. And you see him here, he was running like he was Bijan Robinson, and that is such an integral part of his game. We haven't seen him throw the football a lot because last year this was Emory Jones' team. Emory Jones has since moved on to Arizona State, and we didn't see a lot of passes from Richardson, in part because of the injury, in part because of where he was on the depth chart. That has changed, and he's going to be one of these guys that's going to be has an opportunity to make himself a lot of money, as we like to say, the guy that not necessarily came out of nowhere, we knew who he was, but who elevated his draft stock with early performances in this college football season, that he's going to be a consensus first-round guy in terms of how we talk about them. And look, again, doing the comps, he has a little Josh Allen in his game. He has a little Dante Culpepper in his game. And if those things can come together in the right formula, that's a home run. He's a top 10 pick. So I can't wait to see this game against Kentucky. And the other guy, by the way, Will Levis, was a dark horse over the summer. A lot of talk about him, a lot of buzz late last season. Penn State transfer. If you build a quarterback in the lab, he looks like Will Levis. He's a pocket passer, really good arm, but he can also make plays on the edge with the athleticism. Threw 13 interceptions last year, Chris, so he needs to be a little more consistent in terms of the turnovers. But again, sky's the limit in terms of potential. And the good news, if you're into the draft in college football and the overlap with the NFL, this quarterback class will be much better than last year's version where we only saw one quarterback go in the first round.
All right, really looking forward to that game in the SEC East. One more game that you're watching, and you always look studious with the jacket, the glasses, so it's no surprise to me that you're going to peek in on Northwestern and Duke.
That's right, yeah. As Pete likes to say, these guys will not be bartenders and bouncers once their NFL careers are over. They will go on to do slightly more than that. This offensive line class isn't considered deep right now. There are some players who have a chance to be first-round picks. The Week 0 game overseas, the Nebraska-Northwestern game, Pete Skoronski stood out. He played left tackle, and there were questions about his athleticism over the summer. He didn't have any questions about how good he was with the way he played against Nebraska. He was dominant from first snap to the last snap, dominant in the run game, dominant in pass protection, and he was a lot of fun to watch. Not surprisingly, I have him going to the Steelers in this mock draft here at 10th overall. Because the Steelers' offensive line is not great as we currently sit here. But he did really well for himself in that Week 0 contest, and it was impressive to see, and I expect him to keep that up not only in this Duke game, but over the course of the season.
Full mock is up on CBSSports.com right now. Not all 7 rounds, just the first round. From Ryan Wilson here as we look ahead to 2023. Ryan, thank you so much. Very latest Pick 6 podcast is the Brady Quinn football episode. He's got bold predictions, sleeper picks, and Super Bowl picks as well.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.